Welcome to a new Unreal Engine 0.53 tutorial. If you want to deep dive into the world of game development or want to create your own worlds, then this video is for you. This tutorial has everything for everyone, from beginners to seasoned users. We will go through the very beginning, taking baby steps on show you how to be comfortable in Unreal. And as we progress, I will teach you the most important workflows you need to create an environment in Unreal Engine. This version comes with some updates, so we will make sure to touch on those that will make an impact on our workflow. By the end of this tutorial, you should be feeling pretty confident on creating your own game environment. Learn to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5. Start the first lesson for free at unfgames.com. So let's start by showing you how you can navigate inside this viewport. This window here that you see here, the very big one, is the viewport. The viewport is a representation of how your game will look like when you play it. So it's a good idea to learn how to navigate first. When you right mouse click here and hold it, you will be able to move the camera around. And the way you move in Unreal is a little bit different from other softwares. While holding the right mouse click, you can just press W to move forward, S to move backwards, A to move left, and D to move right. So if you're familiar playing games, this should be very comfortable to you because Unreal is a game engine and it's very, very easy to use if you use these hotkeys. So you can just press the middle mouse click just to pan around in two directions, or the left mouse click to just move around in other two directions, like horizontally, and the middle mouse click for vertically. That's all you need to know for now. The other thing you need to know is the lead mode. By default, it's lead, but you can also change this. If you click here, you can go to unlead, you can go to wireframe, you can go to detail lining, and you have a lot of options here, so you can visualize which kind of view mode you want. Like if you want to check the opacity of stuff or the roughness of or any other kind of buffer, you can just click on here. The next thing is this green plus icon. If you go here, you can just choose any actor to put. What is an actor? An actor is a class that you can drag and drop to the world. So for example, I can drag this sphere and press F if I want to focus. I can move around like this. And as you can see, my camera is moving super fast and it's very hard to navigate like this. So in the right side, the top right side, you can change the camera speed. You can just move this to, I don't know, like 0.45, and that's much better. You can also change the speed while moving. You can just use the scroll of the mouse, the scroll mouse wheel. And as you scroll up, you will go faster. If you scroll down, you will go slower. And of course, it will be capped to the number you had here. You can just put something like 3. And then you can just move until you have something that you like. So what can you do here? First things first is that when you click on an object, you will see this gizmo. This gizmo is your transform tools. The transform tools can be selected here, and you can, by default, it will be translate objects, rotate objects, scale objects. So transform objects, what it does is just basically move the object. Rotate, it will rotate the object. And scale, it will scale the object. Now there are some modes that you can use here to change the way you move things. So let me just drag a cube and let me move it up. And if I rotate it, there is an icon here that looks like a world. It means it's using the world transform. if I want to move it along the direction of this object, you can just click here, and now it will move in the direction where it's rotated. This is called the local axis, and if you're familiar with other 3D software, it's a very common thing to have. The same thing for scale. You can scale in the local space, or you can scale like, well, scale is only local space. Let's just put it that way. Move, it can either world, and rotate, it can be the world or local, same as move. Scale is just a scale. The next icon you will see here is the snap. So the snap is very important because as you move things, they can snap to the grid. It doesn't look like it's snapping to anything. But if I go to 500, you will see that I have my grid here. By the way, if you don't see the grid, make sure you press G. It means you are in game mode. If I press G again, go to this icon here, you will be able to see the grid. So as I move things, now it will go in 500 units increments. How much a unit is in Unreal? Well, basically a unit is centimeters. That's the default unit of measurement here. So if you go back to 10, you will snap to 10 centimeters. And if you remove this, you can just move it freely without any other kind of snap. Now, as I move things around, you will see that in the right side, there is this number that is changing. This is called the details panel. So right here, you can see that this object has a transform, has a static mesh, which is a 3D model, has some materials on it. We will talk about those later. But basically, you can change things here too. You can change the number, for example, minus 4,000, and press F to focus. And by the way, if you want to rotate around the object, use Alt and left click. So you can just rotate around this object. And you can also Alt and right click, and you can zoom out and zoom in. So you can just change this. There's the rotation here. You can change the location from different axes. You can just have more control over which kind of exact position you want your object. And the next one is the scale. If I click here, you will have the lock. It will mean that I will scale everything in one axis. Let's just go back to the defaults, like 1, 1, and 1, so we can have a perfect view. If I scale like this, for example, I scale in X direction like 2, I will only scale in one direction, which is this one. But if I go back to 1 and I put the lock here, I can scale this to 2. And now everything will scale accordingly. That's pretty much what you need to know. The next of the things is very self-explanatory. Rotate, you can also snap to degrees, 10 degrees, or you can remove it to snap at any kind of angle. And you can also change which kind of degree you want, same as the scale. And this is the camera speed. This button here will allow you to minimize the viewport. So you can have like different viewports here. So for example, if I go to this one and I can have a top view of what I'm doing, I can also go to unlit or lit mode. If maybe you want to have a view from here and you can plan your city or something like that. Or you can just maximize this viewport and just work on here, which is what I usually do. Let's go back to wireframe mode. I don't really use these viewports. Sometimes they're useful, but most of the times I always work on the big screen. So with that said, let's create a new level. Now that we know the basics of Unreal, let's create a new level. If you go to the top left corner, you will go to File, New Level, and you will get a bunch of options. This open world template is what we have now, but I'm going to choose an empty level, just like that. So click Create, and you will see this black screen. So what this means is that there are no actors in your scene. If you check the right side of the window, you will have a window called the outliner. The outliner, it's all the actors that you have in your scene. So of course, everything is black because we don't have any light and no surface to cast the light on. There's an easy way to do this in Unreal 5.3. If you go to Window, then go to Environment Light Mixer, you will be able to create all the lights you need for your environment. So you can just click Create Skylight, create this one, this one, and this one. Basically, you will create all the necessary actors here that you need to light your scene. So now that we have this, there are a bunch of things we can change. For example, the skylight, we can change it to movable. This is new in 5.3 since new versions of Unreal realized that the skylight should be most of the cases movable. So now this is the default setting. If you don't have it on movable, make sure you have it. And also the real-time capture. This is some new additions of the 5.3. So what we're going to do is to save this map. So I'm going to click Ctrl S, and you will see this window. This window is the content browser. The content browser is basically the folder structure that you have for your project. So inside the content, you can create new folders. For example, right-click, new folder, and let's call this Intro to Unreal. And you can right-click and create another folder, for example, called Maps. And inside this folder, you can save this map. Let's just call it My New Level. And just like that, you have your level. If you want to access the content browser, you can press Ctrl Space, and a window will pop up, and you will see all the folders here. If you click here, it will dismiss. Also, if you go to Window, Content Browser, you can just click here, and you can just click on this part of the window and move it around so you can place it anywhere, for example, in the left, or if you have another window, you can just place it in another monitor, just like I can, or you can just place it on top. This is my preferred way of creating the content browser windows. Just put it on the tab, and if I really need to do something fast, I can just press Ctrl Space. So now with that said, now that we have our level, let's create a landscape. So the landscape is going to be very easy. Here you have the selection mode. This is the default mode that you have on your viewport. If I change to any one of these modes, for example, the landscape, you will see that my viewport changes and I have a bunch of options here. If I go to the modeling tab, you will see that I have other options here. So let's go to the landscape because there are some features that I want to show you. I won't go into detail here. I just want to have something to play with. So I'm just going to create a landscape just as it is. Click Create. And now you will see that you have your landscape. So what you can do now is click on the Sculpt tool and just sculpt a little bit like this. Just like that. Another important tool is the Flatten tool. So you can just grab a surface and just make it flatten. One thing I like to do to make my landscape look better without any fancy models or textures, I can just change the brush size here to make it smaller. I can go to the erosion and just play with the settings. For example, I can change the threshold to something like 20. Let's click here to see what happens. But as you can see, I'm having some kind of erosion. Let's change the tool strength to something very low. And also the size of this, let's just make it smaller. And the threshold to something like 25. There you go. Control C if you don't like the results. or you can just go back to maybe 15 to make it harsher. You can have something like this. It's like a uh, slope that you have in your terrain. Like if I click here, you will see that I get things like that. You see that this kind of a slope can be a little bit unnatural. You can always use the smooth tool to just smooth things out. And in my case, I want my composition to be something like that. Like I want some elevations here, and maybe I want a tower here, and some things that I can put. So what I can do here is just sculpt some rocks. Like let me increase the tool strength and also the brush size. By the way, this brush size is not the maximum size you can have. If you want to make it bigger, like you say you're working in a bigger landscape, you can just change the number, for example, like 14,000. And now you will see that your brush size will change also. So in case you have a very big landscape, don't worry, you can always change the brush size to any size you want. So you can just play here and just do things like that. This is not very pretty. It's just to give me an idea of what will be my composition. And talking about compositions, there is a very important tool for artists. Let me go to the selection mode to show you. So if I go here and press Ctrl 1, and I move here, and I press 1, you will see that my camera jumps into this bookmark. So basically, I save the position. So for example, I want my composition to be something like this. I can press Ctrl 1. Now, when I go to other places and press 1, I can just save this position. The same for here. For example, I want to save this position, Ctrl 2. So I can toggle between 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and so on. And I can quickly move to the camera that I have. So what I can do now is go to the landscape and just sculpt things like this. And I can have a line here. So I can just move things out or just flatten some of these areas. Okay, so the idea is to use to have a line like this. Now this is my blockout, and I will replace it with some nice 3D models later, but just to have an idea of what you can create. So let's start with the blockout of our environment. What I plan to do is to have some castle rings and put them here, just to show you what you can do with the modeling tools, how to texture, how to add materials, and all the fancy things you can do inside Unreal without leaving. So in my mind, I had this reference. Like I had the idea of making this destroyed castle. So you see that you have some shapes here. You have like destroyed parts, and that's something that definitely we can do. So to start with, I'm gonna put a reference so I can check my size. So let's go back to Unreal. And if you control space, you can click on add and then add feature or content pack and just add a third person character. So now that you have this, you will have a third person character. So in order to put the character here, if you play, you will see that you don't have the character. You can just go to Window and then just go to Work Settings, and you can just drag these settings. And actually, they put them here automatically, so no need to worry about anything. Game mode override, you can just put the third person game mode, and if you play, you will have your third person character. We plan to put the castle here, so it will be a good idea if we can see our character the whole time. So we can go to third person, or yeah, we can go to blueprints. Or actually, let's go to characters. Here is the character for the meshes. So we can drag and drop this one. And as soon as you drag and drop some meshes, if it's the first time, Unreal will load a little bit, for the shaders especially. And you can just put it here. After that, you can just position where you want the character to be, and that's it. Now let's try to create some, um, you know, like a blockout for our castle, because let's see how big we want it to be. And also let's use the reference, our main shot for this. And maybe our main shot is not ideal. So maybe we want to put the castle closer, or maybe we just want to, change the camera later. But anyway, let's just put this guy here and this guy here. And what we will do is to use the modeling tools. If you go here to the selection mode, you can go to modeling. Now, what you can do here is basically create any kind of primitive. You can go to the box, and if you click here, you will be able to create a box. There is a bunch of options, such as how many subdivisions you want, the size, and the depth, and all this stuff. I'm gonna keep it just 100 by 100 by 100 and use the default settings. Align to normal. This is very important. If you have a terrain like this, let me show you. Let's click accept, and let's go to the box. If you put align to normal, the box will align to the normal of the surface you're snapping with. If you don't want this behavior, just click here, and then the box will always be in its own coordinates. So let's click escape. Now that we have this box here, let's try to make it bigger. And by the way, if you want to know where you can find this box, you can press Ctrl B, and this shortcut will directly send you to the content browser location that this actor is. So in this case, modeling tools will create an automatic folder for you. That's it. So what you can do with this? Well, you can go here to model, and you can go to polygroup edit. Each face is a different polygroup. You can create different polygroups depending on what you need. In our case, the box came already with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sides. So what I can do is just to move this and select a face and move it up. And let's go back to the position of our camera, pressing 1. You can just make it bigger like this, just like that. And also I want to make it a little bit thicker, so I can just go like this. And I want to bend this a little bit, so I'm gonna make it longer, just like that. Okay, so I have my wall here, and later on I can position this in any shape or form, but just so that we can have something to play with. Click accept when you finish. And now you can just rotate this box. And there is a very important thing I want to show you, is how to move the light. If you go here to your directional light, you will be able to select it. So if you press E, you can just move around like this, just so that you can find your shadows and your lights, and you can decide which kind of composition you're looking for. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl L, and you can just move the light just like this. And you can move it up or down. Basically have kind of like a free form rotation. So in my case, I want to have the shadow here, or actually maybe the shadow can be here on this part. There you go. Just so that I have the light here and the shadow here. And we can always change it later as we model things out. We want our light and the shadows to be nice. So let's just keep it like this. Before we continue to model more stuff, I want to put some textures here just so that I can check the size of the bricks relative to our character. It's always a good idea to check the scale of your environment. Otherwise, it's going to look very awkward. In order to do that, we're going to use Quicksort Bridge. And the way to access this, you just go here to the content browser, click on Add, then go to, where is it? Pixel, there you go. Pixel content. And now that you have this, basically, you have a window like this, where you can just browse through different kinds of assets, textures, 3D models, plants, surfaces, imperfections, equals, whatever you need. In our case, for example, I want a brick wall, maybe, or maybe I want a brick. I want to be very specific. I'm sure they have something. I can filter this to textures, and I can just choose which texture I want. In my case, maybe I can go for something like this, for example. I can just download. And as soon as you download, you will go here, depending on your internet connection. This will be very fast or very slow, but in any case, it's always here. So all the assets that you have will be in the local window. And by the way, of course, you need to log in here first. Otherwise, you won't be able to browse this. So you just go here, log in with your account, and you should be good to go. So I have a bunch of textures. So I'm going to add them. Just by clicking Add here, you will be able to send these textures into Unreal. So I can browse maybe this one. And I can play with a bunch of those. I can have this one, this castle wall. Looks very promising. And then I can go for this one maybe. There you go. So just like that, I have imported 4 different textures. So let's go back here. And let's apply this texture here. So in Unreal, you need to use materials to display the textures in the 2D models, because materials have physical properties and a texture is just, a flat 2D image. So let's go back to Megascans folder. This is the folder where all your textures will be saved. You can go to Surface. And if you want, I already have some filters here. Pardon my manners, I can result filters. It should be like this. So if you go here and maybe go to material, you will be able to filter materials, which we don't have because we're having material instances here. So what I can do is to go here to the material and go to a subcategory, which is material instance, and you will be able to see that. Alternatively, you can just click on each folder and find the texture you want. I'm just showing you different methods you can use. So let's grab one texture. This one looks good. So as you can see, my bricks are very big, and that's not good. I don't really want that. So what I will do is to change the UVs of this texture just so that the bricks have a normal size. So in order to do that, let me save first. Let's go back to modeling and let's go back to UVs. And here I could use project UVs because this is a box. So I can change this plane to box. And now I have my UVs like this. You can see like everything match really nicely, it's styling. And then what I can do is to change the scale. So for example, I can go for 5 by 5. And that looks a little bit better. But I want something like 7 by 7 maybe. That looks much better. Now, the tiling is very evident here. That's because we're repeating the texture 7 times of the size it should have. But for me, it works quite well. So I'm going to just leave it like this. This looks like okay brick to me. Let me just try 8 by 8 just to see if that will actually work better. Let's just stick with 7 by 7. Click accept. And now you have your texture here, which is great. Now you can change the material for anything you want. Press Ctrl Space to open this content drawer. I can just drag and drop this one. And drag and drop this one. And drag and drop this one. Depending on what you need, you can change the texture. And because we're having nice UVs, all the textures that we put will have nice textile density. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how we can model this, because this cube is not exactly pretty. If we see our reference, let me go back here. By the way, this software is called PureRef. If you don't know it already, it's super useful. It's free. You can just download it and you can paste image here and you can have as many as you want. So in my case, I selected a bunch of those here. I don't necessarily need to do the same. I just use it as an inspiration to check what kind of shapes they have. So what I'm looking here is like this kind of shape here, like this kind of negative space, these shapes that are inside, these shapes here. So this will serve as an inspiration to me to basically create what I want for my wall. So with that said, let's go and model something. Let's create the destruction for our brick wall. If you see our reference is something like this. You can see these shapes that follow the brick structure. And we're going to use the Booleans to do that. But before we use the Boolean tool, we need to create the shapes. And it's going to be very easy. I'm going to show you a new tool. In the modeling tools, you can go to Extrude Polygon. I'm going to go back to the default settings just so that you should have something like this. So you need to click here and you can do any shape. And if you close the shape, you will be able to interactively assign the height. Pretty cool, right? So we're going to use this to create any kind of shape. Let's click complete. And now let's delete this because I don't really want it. But before doing that, let's do something first. Let's hide the landscape and let's move this to the origin. And let's put this back to rotation 0. If you don't see the details panel, remember it's in Windows, details, and there it is, okay? So now that I have this, I can go to Extrude Polygon and I can rotate this 90 degrees. Now I can move this back a little bit, so I can just move it like this, just so that my polygons are right. So I'm gonna fix a camera. I'm gonna have fixed position. So I'm gonna go to the Extrude Polygon, and instead of interactive, I'm gonna click fix. I'm gonna put something like 300. I'm not gonna enable snapping because I want the free snap. And then I'm gonna go to the back view. If I go here, you will see that you have your lights. I can change the lights here, or I can just change the lit mode to the unlit mode. And what I can do here, it's either in the back view or either in the front view. I can just start clicking here. So for example, I can just select this one. Okay, let me go back to Extrude Polygon again. Go to 90 degrees. Now we will see this green dot. So what I can do is just follow the brick shape. It's a little bit hard to see. So if you go here to the lit mode, maybe it's easier. Maybe it's not. Yeah, it's a bit easier. Let's just go back here and let's just follow the brick structure here. You don't need to be super precise. This only serves you as a guide, just so that you could have the brick shape without guessing. And also because we're using the texture, our brick shape will always follow the texture that we're using, which is great. I'll go here. I can do some moves like this. Something like that. You're free to use any shape you want. You don't need to be super precise. This is just the way I like to do it because it's going to pay off in the future. So let's create something like this. There you go, something like that. Oh, in the bottom side, we can just go a little bit to the right just so that we have kind of like a different pattern. And here, we're just gonna close this shape. There you go. Now we have one shape. Let's click complete and let's hide it and let's do another one. Do Extrude Polygon and let's go back to 90 degrees. Let's just select one of this, for example, this pot here. So that you have things like this in your silhouette, something like that, and close it. There you go. That's our third shape. Click complete. Hide it with H. Sorry, I didn't tell you which button I used to hide. Just press H. We'll do the same for this part. So this part will be like this. There you go. You don't need to be super precise for this. You know, the more precise, the better. You will be able to get a nicer result. And sometimes it sneaks. So let's just be a little bit patient here. There you go. Click here, and if you don't see it, let's just put it like this. And then let's just close it. There you go. That's our third shape. Click complete. And let's go back to the perspective mode. Let's go back to Control H to unhide everything. And now I can just move this thing like this. Now you notice that 300 wasn't enough, right? So what we're gonna do is to just scale with R. Let's go back to the selection mode. Scale with R, just like this. And you wanna make sure like you're changing all, yeah, you're having all your mesh here. There you go. And if you press Alt 2, this should be good enough. So now that we have this, we can start doing the Boolean operation. So now that we have our shapes, we just need to do the Boolean operations. It's going to be very easy. Let me hide my landscape, pressing H. And what I'm going to do is, first, I want to add some resolution into this because it's a box. And when we do the Boolean operation, it works quite well, actually. But let's just say I want to be safe with my UVs. So I'm going to go here to mesh, and I'm going to remesh. And make sure like this card attributes, it's off. Otherwise, you're going to lose your UVs. Okay. So as soon as you do that, click OK. And now you will have some polygons to work with. This will become very handy in the future. Now let's try to see what happens. We can just select the first one, select the object that we are going to use as a Boolean, and then I believe it's one of this, should be mesh, model. There you go. Go to model and go to Boolean. Now you will see that you have something like this. Let's accept just so that we can see what's going on. And you have a shape like this, which it's fine, really, it's really fine. But you see that because our box was really low poly, we're lacking a lot of detail here. So what I can do now is Control C, just to get back to the previous mesh that I had. And let's see if we can find, a texture that we can use. I think we can use this flint walk that we already, put. So we can just go here and let's do some UVs. Not this wall. So let's do some UVs. Let's go for UVs. Go to project UVs. Let's go back to 1. And also let's go back to box and let it do its magic. Let's go back to 1, should be too much. So we can do 0.5 or maybe 0.1, maybe 0.2. Yeah, 0.2 looks like a nice number. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna click accept. I'm gonna do the same that I did with my mesh. I can just go to remesh to add some polygons. There you go. And now I'm going to the deform tool. I'm gonna go for displays. Now displays by default is gonna use the Perlin noise. I can either use the Perlin noise or I can use a texture map. So just take a look what the noise does. Intensity, I will put something like 50, and you will see what it's doing. It's basically a Perlin noise. So if I go to texture 2D map, I can choose the displacement map. The displacement map is found in this texture. If I double click on it, you will see that I have 3 channels: red for the ambient occlusion, green for the roughness, and blue for the height map. The height map is the displacement map. So what we're gonna do is we can either click here and click on this arrow, or click here and just drag and drop. Now you see that the red channel does a nice job, but to be more accurate, we want the blue one. So the blue one will actually give us the noise that we're looking for. And 50 may be too much, so maybe we can go for something like 20. Something like that. Or maybe something like 20, just so that we can be more aggressive. Click accept. And now let's try to do the Boolean operation again. Select this one, select this one, and then let's go to model. Let's go to Boolean. And now you will see that I have a little bit more, more noise in my mesh, which is nice. It's like you have these little things that we didn't used to have before. So that's great. Let's accept. And let's do the same for the rest of our mesh. So we're gonna select this one. It's gonna do UVs, project. And I'm gonna, for sure, I'm gonna put let me put the material first. Let's put this material. Let's project UVs. For some reason, this one is working very nicely. There you go. And now I can just, this looks like a fine 5 for me. I take it. So I'm gonna leave it like that. Accept. Then we're gonna go to mesh, remesh, accept, and then we're going to deform displays. And because we already do it, it's saving all our settings. And it's using a lot of polygons. It's okay. We want to use that. So if you don't want to use that many polygons, you can go for maybe 2 subdivisions. And you can have something like that. And for me, 4 works just fine. Let's click accept. And notice here in the Booleans, let's do the Boolean again. Let's save it first. Let's do the Boolean, select this one, select the Boolean, and then go to model, go to Boolean. Now this may be too much noise for me. Too much noise. So let's go back. Let's do the displays again. Let's go to the displays. this time we're gonna do something like 10. There you go. Just to have a little bit of noise. And also, like, we can remove the subdivisions, and there you go. So let's accept, click on this one, model, Boolean. There you go. Much better in my opinion. So we can just leave this detail like this and just click accept. Notice that because we already had a material in our Boolean shape, the material is automatically applied here, which is great because now we don't need to worry about the UVs of this. Because we did the UVs for the Boolean mesh, it's also transferring the UVs here and assigning the same material. Let's do one last one. I'm sure you can do it yourself, but I will guide you step by step. So let's go first, let's apply the material. Then let's go to bake some UVs, project, make default, leave it at 0.2 by 0.2 to have the same textile density, accept. Then let's go to mesh, remesh, leave it at 5,000 polygons, should be good enough. And then let's go to deform, displace. We're going to use that displace. We're going to use 4 here and maybe 25, just because this mesh is bigger. The noise won't be as repetitive as this mesh here. So let's just go here, accept. And now we can just click on this one, click on this one, go to model, Boolean operation, and look at that. Now we have our Boolean. Now this has a little bit of noise here. You can decide if you want to have it or not. For me, I think it's fine, to be honest. Better have more noise than less noise, in my opinion. So let's just click accept. Now that we have this, our destroyed mesh, it's ready. We can just go back here and put it in position, just where it was. If you want it to snap to the landscape, I show you a really nice trick. You can just press End, and the mesh will snap to the ground. Now that we have this, it's time to bend this. Now, before we bend our mesh, there's something I want to do. Just like the same way we did here, where we add our displacement, I can do the same here. So what I can do is go to modeling, and I can just go to deform and displace. But this time, just because I have a lot of polygons now, this time I'm going to use this texture here. So which one I was using? I think I was using this one. So if I drag this, you will be able to see the bricks like this, which is great. If you go here, it will also affect this part. So it may have been a good idea to stop this process until you you finish your stuff. I'm going to show you a way to fix this. I can Alt and click, and then I can transform. I can go duplicate. This will create a new mesh, because if this, when I duplicate stuff, it's an instance of another mesh. So what I can do now, it's basically select based on the UVs or the material. So I can just go to model, go to mesh, triangle select, and I can select by material. So if I select this material, I will select all this material here, which is what I want. So I can invert the selection and delete this. Click accept. And now what I can do is do the same. Go to the displace. And I'm using this wall. I can just keep it like that, or I can, if I make it to stream, it will be like this, and I don't want that. I can just go for something like this. If you want to see how it looks with aligning, it's like this. If you decrease the intensity, the lining will be less strong. But in my case, I just want to leave it like that. Subdivisions, I can keep them just like that. So now I can just click accept and move it back to where it was. So let's go here, copy the location, and paste this. And now look at that. Now we have our mesh here. So there are some floating stuff here, which we shouldn't have done after the Boolean. What I would recommend is to do this before the Boolean. But in any case, there's something I want to do. I don't like this lining at all. So what I can do is to go to model. Let's see if there is a mesh, sculpt. Where is the sculpt? There you go, deform. And then go to vertex sculpting. So what I can do now, and let me just check the material. I can just flatten this. So what I can do is to just flatten this out, and let's see what happens. If I select one of this, I can just flatten this out, and you will see that I have something like this. I can just change the size, and what I can do is only create some interesting shapes for me. So for example, I can do something like this. I can continue to do this just so that our lining is not as extreme as it should be. So let's go back here and let's do the same. Let's flatten this out. Let's change the lining here just so that we can see what's going on. We can change this here. You can also change, the flow here, or you can just do like this. Make sure you don't hit back faces. Otherwise, we can change the pattern that we had before. Let's go for something like this. There you go. It's not perfect, but it does the job. That's the important thing. So if we go here, you can create like a pattern like this, which is what you want. And then here in these corners, make sure you don't have as much noise as you should. There you go. You can do the same here. Actually, we can keep the noise at the bottom. And here, we can do the same. If we have too much noise here, we can just decrease by flattening this thing out. Just like that. And there you go. Much better, in my opinion. I don't know about you, but this looks like a much better mesh. You don't have the lining everywhere, just in some parts. And this will give an interesting appeal to your mesh. So let's accept. And let's just copy this and paste this. Oh, look at that. That looks much better, right? You can keep the two meshes. It won't really bother me. Like if you want to make sure you don't have any hole, like it's not necessary. But in any case, I can just select this one and just go to mesh, triangle, select all this. I just delete it. Accept. And now we can just copy the location of this, paste it. Now you should be good to go. Now, I don't want this hole, so let's just keep it like that. Okay. And what I'm going to do is to paste the location, and select these two meshes, and then go to let's go to create, transform, merge. There you go. Let's merge these two meshes, click accept, and we should be good to go. It's not that ideal, but you know, if it's for art, it could work, especially because we have nanite. So now that we merge or mesh, let's make sure we are using nanite, because nanite is what enables us to render millions of polygons. We can just double click on this, and this is the static mesh editor. The static mesh editor is basically another window where you can visualize your 3D model without anything else. So here you can change a bunch of properties. Of course, you can enable nanite. Let's apply these changes. We can enable nanite, and this will make our render better. And also our mesh will just look like that, right? So it will take some time, but we will get there eventually. So the next thing, of course, you can apply collisions. A lot of people ask me like, hey, like what if I want to make it playable? Well, if you check the collisions here, player collisions, I have some collisions because when I model something, it's using the complex collision. So we don't want that. We want project default. And then we're gonna go here to collision, auto convex collision, and here we can just leave the defaults like this. If you want more resolution, you can change this. Let's click apply, and this should be good to go. So let's click OK. And now our collision, press Alt-C to check the collision. You will see that it's a collision line, which means if we play our game, now the collision will be like that, which is great. So now that we have this, let's bend this. So to bend this mesh is very simple. We can just go to the modeling tab. You can go to deform, click on the mesh you want to deform, and go to wrap. And I already played with some settings here, but by default, you should have something like this. What you can do is just basically change the upper and the lower bounds, change the degrees of how you want to bend your mesh. In my case, I want something like this. There you go. I can have something like this, which is great. I can change the bend degrees. If I go something like this, it will be 360. So if I want to make it more accurate, I can just play with the settings here. Just like that. It's very self-explanatory. You can also change this handle here. You don't need to use the editor if you want. In my case, I will go for something just like this. For example, something like that. And click accept. And now that you have it, you will have your bended mesh. Now we will add more stuff, but if you want, you can go to one. You know, just check your preview of how your shot will be, which I think we will have a shot like this. Maybe let's put Ctrl+2 here, and we can just move it like this. As you see in our reference, we have some holes, so let's try to do it like our reference. So let's do it that way. We're gonna fix this part later by adding more bricks and this kind of stuff. Don't worry about it. Let's continue with what we have little by little. We're gonna add more details to this part of the wall. I know it looks a little bit weird, but bear with me for a moment. We're gonna fix it in the future. If you take a look at this reference, we have some parts that are perfect example of how we can use the Boolean tool. So for example, here is a cylinder, here is a square, here's like a type of taper cylinder or something like that. And you also have like some windows or things like that. It's very interesting. So what we're gonna do is to start adding those holes little by little. And we're gonna do that by using the modeling tools. So we will start with the cylinder here. And I'm going to increase the size of this. Like, you can change here in the properties in the left how many polygons you want. So I can just go for maybe 32, maybe 64, something like that. Click accept, and I will have just more resolution to work with. Now I can just go to model, and I'm going to show you something really cool. I can just go to polygroup edit and just select those two here. What I can do is just bevel. So if I go to face edits, I can go to bevel. I can just bevel, and I can just increase the distance of this bevel if I want it. Show the wireframe. It's just really nice to have. So as soon as I do that, I can click accept. Now what I want to do is to basically have this material here. So in order to do that, I'm just gonna go to my materials and put it here. Now the material looks a little bit different from this one because it's the scale. So I'm gonna change the UVs. Let's go to transform UVs because I feel like we don't really need to change the UVs. Go to transform UVs, and here you could select this one and like make it bigger, but you're gonna create a scene. So instead of that, we're gonna go for layout UVs. And instead of repack, what I'm gonna do is to do the transform. And in the transform, I'm gonna change the scale to 5 or 4 or something like that. So let's go for 4. Now that I have this, I can just make it bigger. And I can also make a duplicate. If you want to duplicate this, you can just hold Alt and click, and you will be able to move an object. And if you want to move the camera with it, you can just click Alt, and while holding it, hold Shift, and your camera will move with the object that you have. It's a really neat feature that it's very particular to Unreal, so I might as well show you that. So what can you do with this? Let's check our reference. Always take a look at our reference when we're creating something. This part looks like a very thin one, so we're gonna make it thinner, and we're just going to move this here. Let's see which part can we put it. Maybe like we can scale this up and also make it thinner, just like that. And let's see just how it looks like if we do the Boolean. So if we select these two and do the Boolean, let's go to model, Boolean. And look at that. Now we have some nice shapes here. Now the UVs can be changed. So let's do that now. Let's accept. Let's accept. And now we're gonna do something really interesting. Actually, the UVs are fine after we save. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now you have this shape. We can create another shape. So let's do that now. So let's keep adding more shapes. If you take a look at our reference, now we have something like this. We can do this one, and then we can do maybe these two here. We could do that, or maybe this one. So let's start little by little. So how would you do that shape? This is very simple. Well, let's select this one. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to create, duplicate here in the transform, duplicate, click accept. And now, this is a new tool. So what I can do is basically model a little bit. So let me just do something like this. And then I can just model here, polygroup edit. I can go to inset. And what this will do is just to create, an inset for my stuff. So I can just go like this. And then I can go to extrude and do something like this. Something like that. And then I can go here and add a bevel here in the face. There you go, face. Add the bevel, just like that. Don't need to be super fancy. Click OK. And as you can see, because we duplicate this mesh, this is not going to affect the original one. So what we can do now, it's basically we can just put it in position, just so that we can scale this. We can scale it like this and like this. If you are not satisfied with the scale you have, you can just click here to remove the snapping of your scale, and also you can remove the angles where you rotate the stuff. Also, all of them. You know, we can try with this. We can try with this. So let's go back here and select these two and do a Boolean. And look at that. And what you can do now, actually, I didn't show you this, but what you can do is actually move the mesh and it will recalculate what you have. So for example, I want to move it a little bit like this. So it's not so much of a big shape. Also, I can make it smaller. I can have something like that, right? Let's keep it. Let's keep it like that. Let's accept. Later on, we will feel this. I know this is really weird because, like, what kind of brick is like this, right? It's a very weird shape. From this angle, looks fine, but from this angle, it's not. So we're gonna fix it later. Let's do the next shape first. Let's add another shape. This time we're gonna add this one here. It's gonna be a little bit different because now we are not using only the primitive, we're also having a little bit of a shape just like this, right? Kind of like a taper. So what we can do, basically we can create a cylinder. We can still use the 64 resolution, it's fine. Let's go for that. Click accept. And now what I'm gonna do is to go to the model tab, polygroup edit, and I'm just gonna, you're gonna go like this, just like that. The next thing, let me put the snapping on because maybe I will need it. I will do a plane cut. So what does plane cut does? Basically, it will cut the mesh. Now you don't see it because the plane cut is like on top of it. But if I rotate it, you will see that I rotated 90 degrees. And now I have something like this, which is great. So what I can do now? Well, I can create the shape that you saw before just by going to the Deform tool and then let's go to lattice. So what the lattice does is put some points in your mesh. And for example, if I move this once, you will kind of like move this vertex like this, right? So if I want to have a good resolution, I need to make sure all of this has like nice, you know, is nice even resolution. So, or I could just go to soft deformation and change the axis to 3 by 3 by 3. And let's just check what it does. Let's click on this. And as you can see, it's moving everything. So now I can just remove the soft deformation and do something like this. I can select this one's here. By the way, I'm selecting like Alt 3, Alt 2 to go to the wireframe and Alt 4 to go to the other ones. So I can have something like this. This looks okay to me. So I can just click accept. And now what I can do is maybe I can just scale it like this. And now I can go to model, polygroup edit, go to here, extrude this out. There you go. Accept. And now I can just select these two meshes here and move it like this. And now what I have is something like this, like very interesting shape. Now this one also has a different shape. It's not only like this. It's also, you know, like moving. It looks like to me like it's something like this. Let me draw it. It's like this, and then goes like this. Looks to me. Probably not, but anyway. So what we're gonna do is just duplicate this mesh. So let's go back to modeling. let's go to transform. And let's Alt and click first to duplicate. Click on this one. Now we're going to change this one. We're going to do that by using the lattice. Now we can just maybe do a 2 by 2 by 2. And just change this one, just like this. Even if it's not the real shape, I feel like I like it. So let's go for that. And we can also do something like this. So now that you have this, you can always go to the model and let's see if we can add some bevels here. Let's go to this ones. Or actually, yeah, let's go to this ones and add a bevel. There you go. Nice. Very nice. The next thing I want to do is to put this mesh here. So I'm going to just apply the same material, control space to open this, apply the same material, and just do some UVs. We could do a project UVs, do a box, and it should be just fine. Let's go for the scale for 5 by 5, so that when we scale this up, it's just gonna be better. Let's go like this. And in this case, you can use the local coordinates here. If you click here to just make yourself a little bit more comfortable when using this. So I can just go on here. And I don't really want to put it exactly on the middle. That's a bad design decision. Trust me. So I'm just going to put it like this. And apparently, I need to scale this. So I can just check in the wireframe. There you go. And I can also do like this. Now, I made a mistake here, and I didn't do any kind of, detail. So this is very sharp, and that's something you want to avoid. This can be fixed by putting some meshes here, but it can also be avoided if we just maybe do some displacement here. So if we go, let's see, where was deform displace? Let's just not do the purling noise. First, we need to add some resolution, as you remember. So let's go to mesh, remesh, leave it like that. And then we're going to deform, displace, and change this to a texture 2D. And we're going to grab this one, and we're going to use the blue channel. And this is too much, so I'm going to change this to 2. I'm going to change this to maybe 5, something like that. Just by doing that, you will have a little bit more resolution. So you can just do like this. Now that we have this, we can just accept. And if you want, you can change the details here, but it really doesn't matter because it's going to be a Boolean. So let's select this one. Let's save everything that's the case. You don't want to lose. Select this one. Select the one you're going to use for Boolean. Actually, I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this. Alt and click to duplicate. There you go. Select these two. Go to model, Boolean. And let's see what happens. Look at that. So now we have something like this. And you can just move it if you don't like it. For example, I just want to move it a little bit down. It will just recalculate. But I feel that position was okay. Now I feel like this could be like taller. Like if you check this one, ours is a little bit more like a square. So let's cancel this and just move it. Don't select all of them, just one of them. Select it like this. And also what you can do is move it a little bit just so that the taper is more noticeable. So now when you go here and do the Boolean, there you go. So you have a nicer shape. Like, if it's like this, I feel like it's just nicer just to have this angle here. Let me show you. it's all about shapes, guys. When you create this kind of thing, it's all about shapes. So I like where this is going. So I'm gonna accept, and let's see if there is another place where we can put it. I guess we can just put a bunch of those here, and instead, like of going all the way there to go to the window, maybe we can just put it somewhere else. But in my case, I'm just gonna go here and duplicate this one. I'm just gonna put it somewhere else. And as you can see, because we added those details, now our surface has some details to it. And it's also matching the texture. How nice is that? So I can just go here and let me just do a smaller shape here. Something like that. And let's just scale this like this. Let's go do a Boolean again. Did I mention how amazing the Booleans are in Unreal Engine? If I do this in another software, maybe I already crashed. Unreal is extremely good with Booleans. Such a nice tool to have. Okay. I could also taper this if I wanted, but let's just leave it like that. Let's accept. Let's check our reference. So maybe we can put another one down. But this time, maybe we don't need to go the whole way there. So let's go to this one. And Alt and click. Let's just try to find this one. Or we can just scale it like this. Or just, something like that. And I can always go to the Boolean and just change the depth of this. I can just do something like this, and the depth will be lower, like that, because maybe you don't want this negative space. Maybe you want to scale this up a little bit. For me, I feel like it's fine. Let me check the reference. Yeah, I feel like I should have should have done a shape like this. But no, it's already done. Can easily do it if you want it. So you know what? Sorry for the back and forth, but let's use the way things work in when you create games. Um, it's just the way it is, and it's better to show you this way because when you do it, you will see, oh, wow, the tutorial they always do it at the same. Everything goes perfect at the first try. It really doesn't, right? I always try a lot of things, and if I find something that works, then I show you that. But if not, then I just try it on my side until I get it right, and then I can show you. But this works really nice. I don't really like this shape a lot, but it's working. Let's remove this one. We don't really need it. What else you can do? Oh, you could also do this shape like if you want it. In my case, like I feel we're just gonna add one more. Let's just add here, and this time we're gonna duplicate this one. Go to transform, duplicate, accept. Do something like this, like very, very think, and let's not make the same mistake twice. So let's go to deform, displace, and we're just gonna maybe put something like, actually we need some triangles here. So let's go to mesh, remesh, accept, and actually let's go to the transform, bake transform. Okay, so what it does, bake transform, is it moves the scale to 1 so that you don't have like an even polygon. So now when I do the remesh here, now I have more even distribution of the polygon, because it's going to calculate with the scale, which is not uniform, and my triangles will be like a little bit stretched. So I can just go to smooth, displace, there you go. Go to 5, click accept. And you can also, you have these shapes that go against this, but you also can have shapes that go like this, for example, just to have like a different type of shape, if that's what you're looking for. Not for us really, so we're gonna just go for something like this. Then we're gonna do a Boolean operation. So let's go to model, Boolean. There you go. Something like that. And we're gonna fix this ugly straight line in the future, but for now, it's fine. And notice that the Booleans always do the UV projection. Whenever you finish something, you're gonna have something like this. Okay. If you don't like the UVs, just like I do now, you can just go to UVs, transform, select this one, and maybe you can just scale it. Actually, not a good idea. Let's cancel. Let's leave it like that for now, because when we add more meshes, it's just gonna be easier. Enough for this mesh for now. I know there are some parts here that I'm floating. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just hide this. You can just delete it if you want. You always have them access in the content browser. We're gonna add a little bit of a background just so that we know what we're doing with our mesh. Okay, enough of modeling. Let's step back and see how we can decorate an environment in Unreal. There are several ways you can do it, and we're going to use Quixel Bridge for that. So in order to add the bridge, we just go to Control Space to go to our content drawer, go to Add Quixel Content, and if you notice, I already have it open. The reason is I have been downloaded all the files that we need. And yes, we're going to use this one at the end, the finale of this tutorial. But just so you know, it can take a while to download this, and I'm not going to do it in the tutorial, but just try to look for something like bricks or wood or anything you want, actually. You're free to select whatever you want. I'm just going to guide you through the things I download. I downloaded some plants. I got some wood plants. I got some bricks. I got some nature assets. The perfect combination so that I can just combine nature and bricks and whatever. First things first, let's add a material. Let's add this grass. I downloaded the medium quality because I don't really need anything higher. Let's click add. And if you go to your content drawer, you can go to surfaces and let's click material instance. Remember, you can always go to the filters, look for a material instance. So what you have here, if you double click, it's a window that looks like this. This is the material instance editor. And it's basically another viewport, just like the static mesh editor, but for changing the parameters of the material. So there are a bunch of parameters that we can change. We're not going to change all of them. So in our case, we're just going to drag the material here. I'm not going to do like a super deep dive into landscapes. I just want to have a material. So let's just go to the grass and just put it like here. And you notice that it doesn't have anything. The reason is if you click on the landscape and you go to the details panel, you'll have your landscape material here. So what you can do is click on this and then click the arrow here. In case you don't have space like me, you can just click on this arrow and it will apply the material. Oh, suddenly you have something to work with. Now you can change the tiling. So for example, if I go here and you change the tiling of this, I don't really need to do that, but just so you know how to change these things, let's go for, there you go, tiling offset. If I go for 2 by 2, it will come smaller. If I go 0.5 by 0.5, it will become bigger, which is maybe what I want. remember, we're not going to really see this stuff here, but I just want to have a base to work with. Let's close this material editor for now. So how do you go about decorating this stuff? Well, if you're already a 3D artist or an aspiring 3D artist, a lot of your work will be drag and drop stuff. So I'm going to show you how to drag and drop, which is very simple, but I'm also going to show you how to decide what to drag and drop. So let's start with the very basics. Let's put some cliff here. So if I drag this, you will see that I have my cliff, and I can just move it into position here, just like that. And just by doing that, I already have like something. Now, you notice that my landscape is messing up with my mesh. One thing is my mesh is, straight. So what I'm going to do is to go to Modeling Tools, Transform. I'm going to duplicate this one because I don't want to mess up with the original one. Okay, I'm just going to take a second here because it's a really large mesh. So what you do with the landscape, if you have like a shape like this, normally you want to have assets, smaller assets. This one, it's bigger. We can make it smaller, of course, but the idea is to put your meshes so that you can hide the landscape, because the landscapes are not exactly the prettiest thing to watch. So if you put the meshes and try to hide the landscapes, then you're just gonna start hiding the landscape, and things are going to start looking better and better. So let me just duplicate this mesh. It's just gonna take a while because it's just such a large mesh. And now that I think about it, I should have just give you the, an example with another mesh. But anyway, we're already here. So go to Deform. Notice that this mesh has a lot of triangles. Go to Deform. Go to Wrap. And you can see what will happen. The bend is like this. Now we can change the bend for something like less different degrees. Go like this direction. There you go. Something like that. I notice that I already have like a nice curve. So what I can do is to change these values. I can put minus 90 degrees. And now my mesh will be something like this, which is great. This is what I want. Let me go for something like minus 110. Maybe will be good enough. Okay, so let's accept. And when you accept, it's going to take a while because basically you're changing the mesh. You're changing basically the whole file, and it needs to save the whole files. This is very common in Unreal when you're working with nanite meshes. Things start. You're gonna see this window a lot. Just loading. So I can just put this thing here, and I can just duplicate this. And if you notice, it's a little bit slow. The reason is I don't have the nanite. If I go nanite, go to lead, go to nanite, go to overview, or I can just go nanite mask. They're very strange. It's something happening in the new version. But anyway, you'll see that this nanite support is not enabled. Just click on it, apply changes, and you will just wait a little bit. You must apply nanite if you want to use meshes like this big. By default, Quixel will enable nanite for meshes that come with the nanite preset. But in case they don't, you can always go to the static mesh editor, click apply changes, and they will just build a nanite for you. It will just take a while. Now, what I was telling you here, I'm going to put the camera just so that it becomes a little bit more interesting. You're going to see this window a lot where things start like loading, and that's normal in game development. Now you see like everything is just faster now. So I can just go ahead and just put this thing here. And notice that we have come to a point where I'm just alt clicking and doing this kind of stuff. We have come to a point where our landscapes is basically interfering with our mesh. It's like it's not matching, right? And we don't want that. We want our mesh to be basically enclosing this area. So there are a few things you can do here. One, you can go to the landscape, go to the flatten tool, and just reduce the size. And what you can do is basically move it like this. There is another option, Control Z. If you move these meshes here, you will realize that some of these meshes like fit into each other, some of them are not, and you will come into a situation where you have things like this. In this case, what you can do is just refine things a little bit. This is why we're using the landscape and not other meshes. We can just go and sculpt things a little bit, not too much. If you hold too much, you click Shift to sculpt down, and you can also use the smooth tool. Right? So you can just sculpt and just move this thing like this. Eventually, you will have something that looks like this, which is blending a little bit better. Like for example, here I can just sculpt this thing, and in areas where it's like this, where you know what, I don't really want you anymore, I don't really need you, I'm just gonna just go and flatten this, just like this. And I can do the same here. And I can just, basically, I can close this thing, but to be honest, I'm not really gonna look for it for this angle. I'm gonna do the same here. I can just put things here, and then I can smooth things out, keep smoothing, and you can reduce the strength, of course, and keep things like this. There you go. So now you have like a nice little mesh that you can use. Now, if you're wondering why my camera has like this circle here on the right, there you go, this here, that's because I stream Age of Empires, and where I put the camera is like next to the minimap, and the minimap is a circle. So what I did was to list like this mask that you can put on the camera, so my camera doesn't hide the map. That's why this camera is like this. But anyway, little off topic there, but just so that you're wondering why the camera of this guy is like cut like this. The reason is I play Age of Empires, and I put the mask there so you can see the minimap when I stream. Anyway, what we just seen here, it's how you can manipulate Megascans assets so that you can fit your particular environment. Like in this case, I had like a roundy shape, and if you check the original mesh here, let's go to the 3D assets, let's go to the static mesh, and let's try to find it. It should be this one. If this is the original one, let's just say we want to put it here. They almost look like completely different assets, right? Because we bended it. And that's the beauty of Unreal. You can do all these things inside, and you don't really need to leave the editor and go to another 3D modeling package. Or it's like, oh, I wish this mesh was bended so I can fit into my environment. Don't worry, you have all these tools inside Unreal. So that's a really cool feature I wanted to show you. The next thing we're gonna do is to continue adding more meshes into our environment, because this landscape is not the prettiest thing to see, so we're gonna fix that now. Okay, let's continue. I figure out maybe I should just leave the camera here to make it more interactive. If you like the camera there, let me know in the comments. Like, hey, I prefer to watch the tutorial if you are there. It's more fun or uh, more digestible. Like tutorials are not the funniest thing to watch. If you don't like it, it's like, hey, like your face is really bothering me when doing the tutorials. Either way, let me know. But we will stick for it for now. I removed the mask of Age of Empires, so can you see the whole thing. Uh, Back to this environment. Let's just add some ground. I have a bunch of assets here that we can use for ground. So let's just drag and drop and see what they do. So I have this one that you can just put it in the ground here. You have this one, a bunch of rocks. Whenever you're working, it's a good idea just to put the rocks or the rocks. Let's just put the assets in places where you can just use it as your content browser instead of like every time you want to find something, control space and look at this mini thumbnail that may not be the best thing to watch. So just is this the same asset? It's not. It is. It is the same asset. Okay. If you drag and drop the stuff here, it's just gonna be easier, right? So I'm gonna just put this thing here. And there you go. Like any asset, we can modify it if they don't fit. But for now, we're just gonna put the ground here. And we're gonna fix the ones that don't match. So I can just put the ground. And whenever you're working with nature assets, I highly recommend you to remove any snapping here. It will just make everything look more natural. So I can just scale this up just like this. And I can just move it around. I can just place it like this here. Scale it up and down. And basically, I'm just gonna start filling the spaces that we have here. What I like to do, the way I like to work, it's I start with a big stuff first. Like for example, I want to fill out this part. And then when things start getting too repetitive, I change the mesh. So basically I choose one mesh and I can just, scale it in ways that normally you wouldn't use. Like you can scale in non-uniform ways. Anyway, use one mesh, only one, and because you're rotating it, you may or not realize that it's the same mesh. In my case, I realize. So when you notice that it's the same mesh, basically just, time to add other ones on top. And that's the way that you decorate these environments little by little. If it's far from the camera, remember, like, it's a tutorial for artists, so I'm not really focused on gameplay right now. We have another tutorial for that. Just put the things here. Now, if this is too much, I can just make this one like this. And also, I can just rotate this stuff or find another mesh. For example, I can find this one. And I can just Alt and click to duplicate and just put it in position here. Remember, not every time you will find things that fit what you're gonna do. But you have the option to just modify this asset. So in my case, I'm not gonna worry about this part. I'm just worried about this one. So I'm just gonna work with this. This looks a little bit like too much, so I'm gonna change the size of this. And also, like, don't be afraid to change the landscape. If you have a situation like this where the landscape is here and it's like, you can either change the mesh or you can change the landscape. Like usually you don't need the landscape when you put the mesh. So I will just sculpt here, and while holding shift, I'm gonna just hide it just like this. And just like that, like my landscape is gone, right? and now I have meshes, which is nice, right? Um, this has too much noise for my taste, so I'm gonna use maybe this flat mesh that we can put here. Let's see how it looks like. No, not really feeling it. Not really feeling it. Maybe we can try to rotate the mesh. There you go, much better. I feel like this part was too noisy. Take this part. Okay, maybe we can rotate things a little bit. And maybe this part we can just go like this. Maybe make it smaller. For this kind of mesh, it's usually a good idea to bend it just like we did before, just so that you can use it in many situations. Here, I don't really like the landscape, so I'm just gonna hold shift click. I'm gonna remove it. And the parts that are like this, I'm just gonna rotate the mesh just so that you don't see the parts that are flying. And there you go. So let's keep adding more rocks and more stuff. For example, you have this rock here. I believe we can just maybe, let's check our camera. We have camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. Look at this. There you go. So in my case, I think my camera will be, can either be here. That's too much. Like that's too much noise. So I can just move it up. Yeah, I think this camera is okay. So what I'm gonna do is just to block this path by putting some rocks. So I can either use this one, and I can make it hard this mesh. There you go, something like that. And if I feel like I need more rocks, maybe I'm gonna, download some other stuff. Let's see this one. Yeah, like you can play with this stuff, like especially these meshes that have close posts. You can just put them like this and play with it. Play with that. Play with the shapes. Like for example, you wanna put things like that. You can rotate a little bit, and also you can do the same here. Alt and click, E to rotate, R to scale. Basic operations that you can find in most 3D programs. I think most because Blender doesn't want to. Looks like it's the only one who doesn't want to have the same hotkeys. A lot of people just change the hotkeys to whatever is that they're liking, because Blender hotkeys are really weird to compare to the industry standard. So WER is mostly what you will find in most cases. If you don't, it means they wanna be different. They wanna try some. They wanna be special. They wanna grab the attention. Usually, that's what happens with softwares that don't follow the same structure um of the hotkeys, especially for 3D modeling. Like 3D modeling is like it's been a while, so a lot of things have been figured out already. One of those is the hotkeys. So if your free software doesn't have the same hotkeys, it's gonna be a mess. All right, downloaded this scatter plant. I don't know what to feel about it. It just looks weird. I don't think I'm gonna use them. Um, let's see our camera. Yeah, something like that. We're gonna put a background later, but for now, uh, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's work on the background now. I will go and download some rocks because these rocks are not enough. So I'm just gonna download some rocks and we're gonna continue working on this piece. So we are at the point where we don't want to have any blockout elements in our scene, such as this part of the landscape is pretty ugly. It doesn't really help me to figure out or have in my head what's the final image for what I want to create. So I decided to download these assets. These assets are quite big. It's called gigantic sandstone terrain and some massive Nordic coastal cliff. The same for this one. And I also download some bricks. I don't know if I showed it before, but just in case, I have some bricks and some wood planks we can use. So let's deal with this background. So let's go ahead. And what I'm going to show you is something that may be harmful for you if you have a lot of assets just like what I do. Because when the project gets really big, it can be quite messy. So what you will do is to create a collection here. If you see here collections, you will notice that you can add just basically your favorites here. And you can go to settings and it should be here, like show collections or something like that. Or yeah, I think it's there by default. So just click plus and let's call it like background elements. And then you can go to your Megascans folder and go to, and yeah, this one, sandstone gigantic, and just drag them here. And also there was one cliff called massive Nordic coastal cliff. So we're gonna type Nordic and just put it here. So now I don't need to just go to my folders and try to find it. I can just go to my collections and I will have a selection of meshes that I can easily choose from. So let's start with the background. So as you can see, it's a quite big mesh. So what I will do is to just move it into position. I press 1 to move my camera, maybe just where I want the, and that shot to be, maybe around here. Let's save it with Control-3. I believe you can go to different bookmarks here. I believe it is here somehow. Here it is. Bookmarks, jump to bookmark 1, 2, 3. Of course, you can set it manually, but I rather use the shortcut. So I like this one here because if I rotate it, like it still kind of works, but I like the line that we have here. So let's just go back to our shot and maybe something like this. What I like about this thing is that I have a line here. This helps my composition because I will point towards my main topic here. So I can just decide if I want to just rotate things around or maybe move it a little bit farther like this. Because maybe it's too close. So let's just move it like this, go back to 3. And just try to put it in position here. And if you have something like this, don't worry, just go here, go to landscape, and then go to the flatten tool and make it like really big. And start flattening these things, just like that. There you go. Awesome. So let's take our look at our shot. And also we have some terrain here we can use. So let's just grab this one. And maybe this one can be like here. Go back to our shot. Of course, this is too big. So we need to move it just like that. Just so that we have something in the background. This kind of works. So what else you can do? Well, you can just change the background. So maybe we can use one of the meshes we have here because I don't really want to use this tiling texture. Maybe something like this. And I can just make it big. And I can just put it in position here. So what I can do is just move it here. And I can just start duplicating this mesh, make it big. move it around. And because this is not a gameplay area or anything, I don't really need to worry about the player will go there or not. Just some basic stuff. The same I will do on this part on the left because I don't want to see any tiling texture here. So I will just make this one big. And because I will be far, I don't really need to worry about texture. There you go. What else I can do? I can duplicate this one because basically I'm seeing the ground here and I don't want it. So now that we have this, this is much better than something like this. Whenever you put your background elements, it also gives you a sense of completeness to your image. You have the foreground, you have the middle ground, you have the background. Without the background, it looks a little bit empty. So try to put the background whenever you possibly can. Okay, so let's just try to fix this ugly part that we have here. What I'm gonna do is just use the casual Boolean. And I'm gonna just create here in modeling tools, go to the sphere, make sure align to normal is off because otherwise you're gonna click here and the sphere will just rotate in a very weird way. So just click off align to normal and now you will place your sphere anywhere in the map. Click accept. And now what we can do is to try to follow this reference here. If you take a look at this, you have something like some noise here that have this shape here. And it looks like from the side view will be something like this. So let's just try to model that. So the way we're gonna do it is very simple. We're just gonna put deform, we're gonna displace, and this will give us enough noise. So we can just go back to 2 just to make it less heavy. And 10 looks like a nice number. So let's just keep it like that. And now what we can do is just make it big and scale it just like that. We can scale it like this. And we can try to find a place here where we want our Boolean mesh to be. It's like something like this, for example. We can just keep this making it bigger or smaller. We can try with that. Another thing we can do is if you go to the lattice tools, you can just go back to 3 by 3 by 3 and try to change these things a little bit. So for example, here is like this, here is a little bit like that, just so here is more indented, just so that you don't have the classic sphere shape that you normally get when you just scale it uniformly. So you can just do something like this, for example. And if you want to have more details, you can always go to lattice and go even deeper by putting like 5 by 5 by 5. And, just, for example, make this part a little bit like this, make this part a little bit like this. And you know where this is going. It's just try to make it less uniform. So for example, here you can just do something like this. And here maybe you can just put it like something like that. You get the idea. So the idea is not just to have a uniform sphere. So now that you have this, what I'm going to do is just go to transform and Alt and click to duplicate this mesh and duplicate this one, accept. And I will just leave this one here because maybe I will need it in the future. Another thing I will do is to put a material here. I download this material. Let me see if I can find it. It's called Rocky Ground. Because if you check the reference, this is like, they're like pebbles, like kind of bricks. Looks like this one could work. Maybe this one could work better. The construction gravel, maybe. It's just a matter of trying which which texture can work best for you. So I'm just gonna put it here. And as you can see, the texture is not the prettiest thing to see. So we're just gonna go to UVs, auto UV. We're gonna check the checkerboard. We don't need to be super critical with this. We can just go to UV and wrap, not repack. Let's go to transform UVs, not transform UVs, sorry, layout UVs. There you go. And then you go to transform, then you just go to the scale like 5. Sorry, not this scale. That's the preview. This is scale here. The 5 by 5 by 5. Looks okay to me. So time to play with this. So we will just move this thing here. And now we can just click on these two and go to model and do a Boolean. As you can see, like our shape is not like this. I don't really want it. So let's just rotate a little bit to see what's the result. Something like that. Yeah, I think something like this could work. Maybe if we rotate a little bit like this and have some angle, maybe can have a different result. It's all about trying new things. For example, like this one, like if I check my reference, we could put something here if we wanted. In our case, this should work just fine. Let's just move it a little bit so that it's not super extreme. And also I'm gonna rotate it a little bit. That was too much. So let's rotate it. Okay, so now that you have this, I don't really like the noise that is happening here. I feel like it's too big, maybe. So what I can do is to cancel, and maybe I can go to Deform Displays, and I can try to put the texture here. And I can just grab my rocky ground, put the blue channel, and I can try to put it like, if I put 0, it's like this. If I put 4, it's like this. So in this case, because the noise is already there, we can just smooth it out. Now, do not smooth things too much. Just a little bit, just so that we reduce the noise. And then when we go to displays, we can grab this noise here, which could be very nice. So let's display intensity. We don't want to put this like 10. If we put 0, it's like this. If we put 2, 4 looks like a nice number. Let's go for it. And also I'm gonna duplicate this mesh because maybe I will need it in the future. So now let's try it again. If we go to model and Boolean, we're gonna have a much nicer result. In theory, let's check how it looks like. And now it's gonna take longer because I'm just using the, there you go. I like it much more. Now it's using more polygons, but don't worry because we have nanite. So we're gonna just leave it there. Let it load. Actually, I like the way it was before, and I'm just gonna rotate it like this. And this should be good enough. Let's try it one more time. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Looks good to me. This open faces, you don't really need to worry. I'm worried only about the noise, which we have. So we're gonna leave it like that. Because later we're gonna put some bricks on top just so that, you know, it's not just destroyed wall, it also have like some noise. And what I'm gonna do, of course, is do the same here, but this time I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Let me duplicate. And what I can do, if this is too big, I can always go here to mesh and simplify. And it's gonna take a while, but if I simplify by, let's just say 50%, it's gonna be good enough. So let me grab this one, and let's go to model and Boolean. And now the Booleans should be technically faster. So there you go, something like that. We can always move this thing here if you don't like the result you got. You can go for something like this, or even like make it smaller and move it like this here. You saw that you have something smaller. Yeah, something like that to work. And also you can, instead of putting it in the top, because we already have the top here, you can always put it at the bottom to see how it will look like. I'm not really feeling it, so I can just scale it. So let's see how it looks like. And not really, so let's just move it like here. And what we can do is, yeah, something like that. Something like that will work. Okay, so let's accept. And just by doing that, we're adding a lot of detail to our mesh here. Now these things are floating and this kind of stuff. We're gonna deal with those details later on, but look at that. Now we have already destroyed the wall. Kind of noisy, but you get the idea. Let's continue to work on this. Now that we have this, we can just add some bricks to remove the straight line. So what you want to avoid is this kind of straight lines you see here, here. And also we need some bricks here because that's not very natural. And also here, some bricks here. You saw that you have a silhouette that looks like this. Let me just try it for you just before we do it. Is something like this. Like this is the brick, this is a smaller brick, bigger brick, and so on. So it's going to be very easy to do. We just need to place the bricks. And it's a very common operation when working with medieval assets or things like that. So we're going to create a new collection to make our life easier. We're going to pull local, call it bricks. Now we're going to go for the 3D assets, go for static mesh. And here I have a bunch of bricks that we can use. So I'm just going to drag and drop them. I'm just going to start placing those. So for example, if I place it here, I can just start putting those just like this. And I can scale it like this and make it bigger, more or less the size that you have here. So I can just leave it like that. I can grab another one. As you can see, it's a super boring process. Like, I don't recommend this to you. If you have the stats, try to delegate it or do something different. But in any case, I'm just going to show you because it really pays off. Like, it's something that really pays off if you do it well and if you have some patience and some extra time to do this. I highly recommend you to go for it. So I can just go like this and just place those things here. Just Alt and clicking just so that I can put my bricks. And when I get to a place like this, I can just put a smaller brick. And as you can see, as soon as I do that, I don't have this ugly straight line that I used to have before. So what I can do now is basically go for all of those, Alt and click to duplicate, and just put them in position in other plates, basically. So I can just try it here. And then I can remove the bricks that I don't need. I can just put those. And I can do the same here. So I can just, for example, put this brick. And I can just move it like this. And usually this kind of walls will have like bricks like this. And then we're going to have another brick just like this. And now what I can do is just duplicate this and keep doing that forever. And keep duplicating. And you can always go and click shift click to select many of those, and you can just move them to make your life easier. And just shift click again, shift click again. Now, when you have something like this, like it's very repetitive, you can just rotate things around, make it smaller, do it like this, rotate, and I can select a bunch of those, such as those, and press Ctrl and just make them smaller, just so that I don't have the same thing over and over. I can just make this thing wider, maybe select this one and this one and this one and just make them wider. And as soon as I do that, I'm already start to seeing something here. Let's add some bricks here because it looks like on my side I'm gonna finish this this part, because otherwise it's gonna be very boring for the tutorial, right? Let's try to finish this wall by going for the bricks here. Maybe grab this one. Try to make it like this. There you go. And what I can do is just try to place it, put it maybe a smaller brick like this, and then grab another one, maybe this one. And I can just rotate things around. Like for example, here, I can just rotate this stuff. I can also rotate this one if I want it. Basically, I'm trying to put the bricks here where I can change the silhouette of this. I can just put this thing here. And I can just place it just like that. There you go. And I can just keep duplicating this stuff. I can just rotate like this, make it larger, make it smaller if I want it, like place it like this. And it looks like it's more or less the same size, but just in case, I'm just gonna make them smaller and then adjust. I'm just gonna put them in these places. And I can also put them here, like, for example, let me move this back here. I can just drag and just copy those and place them here, just like this. And start like scattering these bricks little by little. I can just go ahead and just put it here, just like that. And I can go for this part, for example. I can just duplicate this one and place it maybe here. Notice that it's a very how to say, it's a very easy task, actually. It's all about trying to have a nice shape and try to hide the parts that you don't want to show the player. For example, this is pretty ugly in my opinion. I can just go ahead and do something like this. I can also rotate the bricks just like this. And I can move this once so that I can have them like this. I can also rotate this one and make it smaller or whatever. It's too much for me, so I'm gonna put it here. And as you can see, we're starting to see something. Let's just duplicate a bunch of those here, and let's go for the world coordinates. Otherwise, it's gonna be very hard to move them around. Go ahead, go for this one, and maybe rotate this one a bit. This one, maybe we can change it or make it larger. And try to connect those things. I can also do the same here. Let's just do it very fast just so that you can see how much it can affect the silhouette. I can just duplicate those and go here. It looks like it's on this part, so I can just go ahead and just move them here. And you know, the more patience you have, the more basically the better it will look. Like I don't have much patience myself, that's why I try to avoid to do this task. But if you do have the patience, and can actually have a nice result. So there is a problem with this, and that is the bricks are another color, which looks a little bit weird because, you know, this brick is not exactly the same type as this one. We don't necessarily need to have the same type of brick. We can always just go to unlit mode with Alt and 3 and just check the colors here. So what I'm gonna do is to go and find the material instance of this. Just by going here to the details panels, you will see the material. You can double click on this and you will have a window like this. So what you can do, let me just put this one smaller. You can go to the albedo tint, however you want to call it. And let's just say the brightness will be like 0.7. Okay, that's closer. Saturation 0.8. 0.8 maybe. Okay. And the albedo tint, what we can do is to just click one of those and let's just grab one of those colors, maybe this one. And then we're gonna go for the brightness and maybe adjust it like 1, and then saturation maybe 0.5, maybe 0, 0.5. You can always change the value here, just for something, just like something like that. And as you can see, it's starting to blend much better. Now, if I go to this mode, you will feel that the bricks are much, you know, they blend better compared to where we have these white bricks. Like it doesn't make sense that the bricks are a different color. So what I can do on my side, I will do it off camera. I will just keep duplicating this brick until I have something that I like. And then I will show you, you know, the final result. So I finished putting the bricks. Hopefully you can appreciate the difference. So if I hide this mesh pressing H, you will see that these are the meshes that I use. I want to show you something really, really cool. So if you want to select those meshes, let me hide my camera for a second. You will go here to the outliner and basically try to select the ones with the same name. And Unreal comes with a bunch of options to select objects. You can just click on this, go to select, and then go select all with the same material. You have a bunch of options too, but in any case, you can just select this one and press H. So this is how it looks like without the bricks. This is how it looks like with the bricks. So what I want to do now, it's basically fix this ground because it's a little bit noisy. Let me go to my main shot. I adjust the camera a little bit. So for me, this is a little bit too much. So I'm gonna start flattening these ones. I'm gonna flatten this one. And basically flatten most of them just so that I don't have much noise here. So if I go here, I can just go like this. And also here. By the way, if you want to play this game, just make sure you have double click on this. And here you will go to convex collision, click apply. That should be good enough. So let's try it out. Like we play from here. But you can appreciate the difference when you have a game and there's just a picture, right? It's just really nice to see everything come together. So I'm just gonna move this thing here. I don't want it to have like I don't want it to be too obvious. And then I'm gonna put some meshes here. let's see what kind of assets can I find. Let's go back here. Probably this one. Like you have this ruggle mesh. Let's take a look at it. Very nice. We can just like put it here, just like that. And we can do the same here, like maybe here for this one. We can just make it big, put it in the ground, just like that. And also maybe here also. We can put this one here. Something like that. And we can scatter this. We can just put it like this if we want it. Something like that. It's pretty cool. So this kind of assets are really nice. You can also try this one. Maybe something we could put here. So let's make it bigger. Maybe we can, maybe we're not, but we will see. So let's just drag and drop just like that and rotate it. There you go. Now you can see how adding all these small assets add a lot to your scene. Let me duplicate this one and try to put it like here. Maybe here. I think here we need some details. So let's just go ahead and put some details here. And also maybe we can duplicate this one. This one is a really nice one. And we can just put it here and maybe make it bigger, or you can also make it part of this just by scaling things like this and try to put it into position. Let's just try to see how it looks like. Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not, but for all these things you can only know if you try. I can just put this thing here and I like it, so I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna drag this one. I'm gonna just go for something like this, and I'm gonna scale it. I'm just gonna place it in a place where I can just not see the plane at all. It's for this kind of things, it's always a good idea to just play with it. And if there is an angle where you cannot see it, that for me that's a little bit too much noise. So let me go back here and maybe I can put it here. Something like that. Yeah, I feel something like that could work. I don't want to put too much noise. Let's see what we can do with this rug. There's something I don't like about it, and now that I see it, it's the color. So let's fix the colors. Double click on this, and you can see that it's a little bit too dark. So let's go to the brightness and increase the brightness a little bit, and also desaturate it just like that. There you go. You saw that we have a more neutral color. So save this, and also this ones we're gonna change the color because it's just not matching. So let's go to the saturation, and we can go for something. We could do something like that. Let's do the same for this one. We can go to the saturation and maybe the brightness also. You may want to try, but to be honest, I feel like it's just fine. Let's do the brightness back to 1 and the saturation a little bit more. And I think there is another one here. Yeah, this one. So this one, we're gonna open the saturation and just like this. You can change the lining and everything. So now this blends much better. By the way, if in a reel you can just move windows, like if you have this one, you can just plug it in here, leave it there. So if I just drag this one here, I will be able to move it somewhere else. The reason I'm showing you this is because if you are very, very new to Unreal, maybe a possibility that you don't know, sometimes you have something like this where this window is open and it's like, oh, I don't know how to close it. Double click here, so it's like small, and then drag from this area, and then you can place it anywhere here. So in my case, I like to put them here, or you can just close it with the middle click. So it looks pretty nice now that we add more smaller details. We can also put this kind of detail like here, for example, just so that our environment also have like some bricks. Let's continue to add maybe a little bit more vegetation. I think it's gonna add a lot to our environment. So let's do that. So now let's add some grass. If you go to Quixel Bridge, you'll see that I already download some grass here, like the wild grass, some ivy, some wheatgrass, some grass clumps. It's gonna be very helpful. So the way you're gonna find them is just go to Home, go to 3D Plants, and here you have a huge variety to choose from. I already chose this and I already add them to my project. So if you take a look at my content browser here, Control Space, and then go to 3D Plants, you'll see that I have a lot. Now to paint plants here, it's a little bit funny because I could just drag and drop those until I feel my environment, but it's gonna take a long time. This is why in Unreal we have a different mode for painting. So if let me save this, if I go to Foliage mode, you will see that I already have these plants here. These plants are automatically added into my project when I add them from Quixel Bridge, because they assume you're gonna use this for foliage painting. So what I'm gonna do is to choose one of those plants, for example, these clumps, these ones here. Actually, let me remove those. Let's start over. Let's drag this here, because apparently it's a little bit weird. And let's just drag the plants that we want to paint, such as these ones, and maybe some taller ones, maybe another clump, maybe something like this. Just have a huge variety of plants really helps a lot. Let's see, I think that's good enough. So let's click on those. Okay, so you have click all of those. And then you're gonna start painting. So what I can do is paint, and you will see that automatically I paint here on my brush. So Control C, I can show the details. So if I select all of them, you will see that my mesh has multiple values. I can change the density, and I can also change the density here. So for example, if I reduce the size to something like this, maybe something like 150 and paint, you will see that my plants will appear within this radius. And also, if I change the density here to say something like 1, I will have much more plants than what I should. Okay, so there are a bunch of things you can change here. Let me change the density to 200 to see that maybe that's better. You see that all the sizes are pretty much the same. I really don't want that. So let me Control S, or I can also hold Shift to paint. And I will be able to remove. As soon as I hold Shift, you see that here goes to the erase mode. So what I will do is to go to the scale here, and you see that the scale is uniform. So let's go for a minimum of 0.8 and a maximum of 2.2, something like that. And let's try again. Now you can see I have a very big plant here. There are some plants that I don't want, such as this one. So let me uncheck this one. So I will choose this plant here, and I will just remove it. There you go. So now what you can do is to remove the density, maybe 100 and maybe 250. And you can have some grass clumps here, just like that. Okay, let me add more variety because I feel like we need a little bit more. So maybe we can add this one. Add. I can just hold Shift and drag a bunch of those, and I will just. They're already added by default actually. So if I just click on those, you will see that I have a lot of those. Let me decrease the density to maybe 50, and that's fine. I can just go here and start painting in these areas here. Nice. And now what you can do is to actually select Shift and remove those and go to the one we didn't add. And looks are these ones here. So what if we add this? Yeah, we have the wheatgrass. Let me have some taller plants here. So if I select these ones here, it's a little bit hard to see. I only select those. When I paint, you will have something like this. So they're a little bit big, so I will just change the size here. Go back to the minimum default values, 0.4 and 1, maybe? Yeah, that works fine. And I can also just decrease the brush size to maybe 30 to paint something here. And if you check our reference, like we do have some plants that grow here, right? Just a little bit. And I want the tall ones first, just so I can have more variation, and I can make them like 1.5 just to have like something like that. Let me go to my shot. Maybe I can add some here. And I can always increase the brush size just so that I can just easily paint more and more. It's like that. If you don't want to occlude some parts, so just go ahead and select those. And now you can actually, you could select all of those and go for the scaling. Go for minimum 0.8, maximum 1.9, and just paint like this. And if this is too tall, you can select this tree and change the scale to maybe 1.2 and the minimum to 0.35. So now when I paint with everything, let me just increase the brush size and just have something that I like here. And do the same here and decrease the brush size, something like that. And I can always hold Shift to remove some parts that I don't want. In my case, I want to have like this area clean. I don't want to paint like everything like that. That may be realistic, but we're making art. So what I'm trying to do in my mind is to have some glass clumps. Clumping is something you do in art a lot. You have some here and some here. And this leaves you with a clear path that you can go and watch this area. Because sometimes grasses in the games indicate that, hey, you cannot go here. So let's paint like 50 here. We can start adding some grasses here and there, like this one's here. And also, this area. Especially like in the corners. You can also go to the place a single instance, and you can just click here. You can also shift click if you don't like it. You can just go and just place instances based on a single click. Like for example, here you can just go here. If you don't like this one, remove it, try another one, remove it, try another one, remove it. Eventually there will be something you like. This one I don't like. So I like the tall plant here. I think it's too much, so I can just like hide it somewhere here. Nah, not really liking it. Let's go back to the paint mode and let's just paint here a little bit. So you can see as I do that, my scene starts looking much better. I always put some grass here. If I don't like this one, I can always go ahead and paint. And what I can do now, basically, is choose this English plants to put in my environment. It will just give me a lot more variety. So let me just paint a little bit more before putting the English plants. It's a little bit too much. How do I know if it's a little bit too much? You just feel it. I know it's quite not the most helpful tip I can give you, but it's like music. You play something, and if it doesn't sound good, you know it immediately, right? Same thing with this. You see it, and you have a gut feeling about it, and then you just go for it. So you just increase the size of this. And I can always, of course, go here and paint these parts that I won't be seeing. Something like that. I can just leave this, because if I paint this like this, everything just is not pretty, you know. So I will just have this grass in groups, you know, in smaller groups. So now that I have this, let's add the English ivy. So let's add the ivies here. I think it should be pretty fun to add. So let's go back to our content drawer, and here you can see I have a bunch. So I can just try it out, like for example this one, and I can just move it here, and I can just basically put it in a place where maybe like on the top. I can also scale it. Usually this kind of things you want to scale, and for this kind of stuff you want to be really you know, very precise. There you go. Not the funniest thing to watch, but as soon as you add that, you still you have some things that you can. For example, here you can go ahead and to be, you know, just make it like that, and you could try to put it somewhere else. But what I want to make is basically this ones here. Yeah, something like this. This is what I'm looking for. There you go. Put it on the top. It will also help us to hide those meshes where you know, we it's not the prettiest thing to see, like this part, so we can just hide them like this. Or we can just scale it, and we can also scale it non-uniformly. Have something. I don't like this one. For example, I can just move it around, just like this. I can just try to place it somewhere else. It could work. Can try a longer one, for example, this one. And we can try to put it here. And the same thing, when you look at this, you can think about where you want to put your stuff. Maybe you want to put something around here. So let's just grab this one. This asset is working quite nice for us. Let's just go here and put it here in position. We can also scale it like this. There you go. And we can do the same with this thing. And put another one here. So that you have something on top. And here we could try to put this ones like this one here. You can just move it like this. Try to put it, try to make it a little bit bigger. And now we can just try to put a longer one here and just move it just like that. Try to place it just like this. And look at that! And now that we have this, it's adding a lot of character to our scene. And notice that here it's a little bit empty. So what we can do is to try to find some of those and put them here. Yeah, it maybe it can work. So let's just make it a little bit bigger and just rotate it around. Over here. It's very funny because one of our the most popular tutorials are environment ones. However, if you take a look at this, would you call this as fun? That's something to think about it. Like, people want environment tutorials, like I know it, but this is environment. It's just placing assets, modeling, and trying to come up with a pretty picture here. Despite how boring this might look like, this is what people want. That's very funny. I mean, that's why I'm doing this tutorial, because a lot of people are very interested in doing environments, and you know, who am I to say they're wrong? It's a very popular topic. Like environment art, it's something that grabs the attention of a lot of people, especially because there's a lot of demand for it in the industry. Like, for example, when I work in Ubisoft as an environment artists are always needed because the worlds are very, very big, and you just have the need to. It's just very easy to always get an environment artist. I mean, it's not easy to find, maybe, but let's just say you need more environment artists than character artists, just because of the size of the environments. It just takes more people, more collaborative efforts to have something there. And here, what I'm trying to do is just to try to put some plants here. It's a little bit weird, to be honest. This one here, so I'm not gonna go for it. Yeah, that's better. What I could do is to put something here, like this area. Let's see how it looks like. So yeah, environment art is something that you always need for a game. Like, not every game has a character. Every game has an environment, for sure. Small or big, you always need one. Look at that. Look what I find. Let's put those bad boys here. And some people enjoy it. I personally enjoy more creating the game. Like, it's okay for me to go on and just create the environment, but just not for show. It's not something that I want to have like a pretty picture to show off. Like, I already did that a lot when I was working on my portfolio, trying to get a job many years ago. Now I'm more interested on the projects itself. So projects like making a game, like, just so much more fun to play the game, just like I will do just now. Like, actually have something. And if you have gameplay and if you have enemies, there are more things you need to think about. There are collisions. There are maybe it looks pretty, but it confuses the player. Maybe it may be something that you don't want to put in your gameplay. So when you add gameplay into your stuff, everything suddenly starts becoming much more interesting, more fun in my opinion. That's why I decided just to make some, smaller games. Just put some more of this here, and I think it should be good to go. A little bit here. You saw that we have one area with more grass compared to another one. Same principle as clamping. When we put the grass, we put it not everywhere. We just put it in places where there were grass and some places where there were not grass. So something like this. That's very symmetrical. Nature doesn't look symmetrical, so I'm just gonna remove this. Keep it like that. Yeah, keep it like that. Maybe I can just move one of this and just try to make it bigger and move it here. Not completely vertical. I want something like this. There you go. And also I can just, yeah, something like that. Maybe that helps. That's pretty good actually. I like it. I like how this is turning out. Now, there's a principle in art I want to show you. So we're gonna work on that next. The last principle I want to show you, it's the concept of having variety in your scene. If you think about our scene, we have the one is the bricks, and second one is the nature. You can combine you have different types of bricks or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like we have two. So if we add a third one, any other kind of material, our scene will look interesting. And 3 is pretty much the magic number for this kind of stuff. So if I go to my bridge, you will see I download some wood planks. So I'm going to my content browser here, and I'm going to the collection, and I'm going to create something like wooden stuff. There you go. So now I can just go, for example, here to my 3D assets. If I type wood here, you will see all the woods that I have. But I want to import the nanite versions of this, like this one. This is a little bit too much for me. And let's say this one also. This one is fine. So let's put this on the wooden stuff. Let's put this one here. This one here. This one has the nanite version, I believe. Is it? It's not. So let's just put it here. And this one is nanite. I don't want this high resolution for what I want to do. I don't really need it. So let's drop this stuff here. And also, I think we have the palisade walls. And I think this should be good enough. So let's grab all of this, right click, nanite, enable, and save it. Now we're gonna control space back to our wooden stuff. And what we can do is to create some kind of scaffolding. So I can just make this big, put it like this. And what I can do is just basically put other ones, such as this one, for example. I can just make it here. I can just try to create like a little sidewalk. So I can always go and change the size of this. Then I can go on this one. The more variety you have, the better. I can just go here. And what I can do now is maybe grab this one, the last one. I can just rotate it like this. and then try to put it in position here without, messing things up. So what I can do now is select all of those and use Alt and click and rotate. And this is a very easy way to add variation. We can just rotate 180 degrees on both sides. Actually, not on this side. And then we can start, like, for example, maybe we can delete this one, and this one we can just move it and rotate it a little bit, or we can just rotate it like this, 180 degrees. You don't need to be exact for this. So the idea is just to have like a small sidewalk that we can use. And in order to make it more interesting, I can just remove some of them and make it like this, something like that. Yeah, that thing could work. So what I can do is just select all of those. And I'm going to show you something new. You notice that it took some time to create this, and I don't really want to do that again. So what I will do is to just right click here, go to level, and create path level actor. We're going to put it on the center min Z. External actors is check. It's okay. And click OK. Now we're going to check where we're going to save it. We're going to create a new folder called mass. We're going to call this my mass wooden plank 01. And then I can just create a new folder inside of here, call it blueprint. And you see that automatically will save this name here. So I will just click save. Now what you have here is a preset. So we can just grab this stuff and just put it here. Like if you want it. And in my case, what I'm going to do is just to create like some ground. So I can just go ahead and rotate this, check our camera, and maybe can put this thing here. And go here. Let's see if we can scale it. We can scale it a little bit, and we can also rotate it just so that you add more variation to these things. You can just go ahead, do something like that. And we can do some kind of scaffolding too. So for example, I can just put this thing here. And now I can start creating my, my support beams just like this. I can just put it here in position. I can duplicate this one, duplicate again. And I can also, grab one of this, make it bigger. If you see that the textures are getting a little bit blurry, that's pretty normal. It's very, very, very normal. So just put this thing here. And if you wanted, you can even create like another preset for this. So we can go ahead and do something like this. And put this thing here. And we can always scale it. Let's see how it looks like. Yeah, we can duplicate this thing again. And we can also change, rotate this kind of stuff. And also duplicate the wooden beams where the seams are, just so that you don't see them. It's like they're stitched together. It's always a nice trick if you wanna. Sorry, you do that. Where is that? There you go. Yeah. So there you go. And then you could have things like that. And also here, like you could just duplicate this one. Notice that because we already have like yeah, we can just put some wood beams here. There you go, something like that. And we can just duplicate this thing, rotate it around. Just so that we have something there and we can just keep adding those stuff, making it thinner maybe. Try to put it in position here. Something like that. Maybe we can have like a triangle, things like that. So like there is some kind of walls, and we can also have like some kind of walls here where you can put the pallet walls. So if we create like a preset like this, let me just quickly duplicate this. And now that you have this, you can just rotate around some of them, make them bigger, rotate like this, like this too. And now that you have something, you can just grab one of this, perhaps maybe this one. You can just make it bigger, and usually it's the roundy one. So we can try to find a roundy one. We can go to the Megascans, put wood here. And there is a roundy one. It's a super high quality mesh, but you know, it works. So let's just put it like this. There you go. And we can just move it like this and just make it longer and try to put it in position here. Something like that. And now I can just go ahead and change this. Yeah, something like that. And now what I can do is just select all of those and then right click, create back level actor. Okay. This will be called the, how do you say it? Well, I think it's written like that. I'm not exactly sure. And then I can just put it like this, rotate it, just to have something there. Now I feel like these ones are too thick. I don't wanna be have so thick walls here. I can just scale those just like that, just because they occupy a lot of space. And I can do the same here. Be careful you choose your, yeah, just choose this ones, and then there you go. And now, of course, you can always go ahead and duplicate this to have more of a diagonal shapes. Something like that. And I'm not sure if I like this one. Maybe I wanna put this one here. Let's see how long we're in the recording. We're 12 minutes, so not too bad for decorating an environment. Let's go to the work coordinates. This is where it becomes very handy when you can just move things around. Yeah, and now we can just duplicate this one and maybe scale it a little bit. Just so that we can have some wood here. And yeah, let's put these things here. As you can see, it starts getting really slow. If you're wondering what type of machine I have uh, a pretty old laptop. It's a good one, but it's old. So I have a 2070 RTX Super NVIDIA graphics card, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and processor, I guess, very fast. I don't know. What I'm not super convinced is this part. Yeah, we could try. We could try, but what I will do is just to put something vertical here. Yeah, something like that maybe. Still not fully convinced. Nah, let's not do that. Let's not do that. We could change the silhouette a little bit by duplicating uh, this mesh here. We can try to put it here, like, let's just say like someone is trying to reconstruct this thing. Have some walls here. Yeah, so maybe some walls. I don't know if this thing here will look okay, but we could try. If someone is trying to reconstruct this thing, if that's the case, like, if you want to do this, make sure it doesn't look like it's floating. And then you can rotate it so that you can have more variation here. I don't like it. Let's just remove it. Let's keep the ones we had. Yeah, not really feeling it. So let's just remove those. And I think this should be good enough. Let's leave it like that. The next thing we're gonna do is to do the final touches. So now it's a good idea to play with some linings. I removed this part because I really didn't like it. I just left this thing here. I really didn't like the way it looked like. So I'm just gonna play with some lights. Easier way to do this is if you go to the light mixer, go to window, sorry, not this window, go to window, light mixer, and you will see all the lights that you have in your environment. I believe we have something, we do have our exponential height fog and all these things. In this case, let's just use the outliner. First things first, directional light is the most common one. This is the sunlight. Easier way to rotate it is Control L, and you will have something like this. I really like the lining we had, so I'm gonna Control C just to save the position, and what I'm gonna do is just to move it like this. What I'm trying to find is some nice shadows for our environment. Yeah, I really don't like this, so let's just go back to what we had. And I really like this shadow that we created inside here. So let's keep trying to play with the shapes. something like this, like let the sun go, maybe. I like this. Could be nice. You have some shadows here, and some shadows here. Other things you can do is, of course, you can change the intensity. If I go to 0, you will see that everything turns dark. I may or may not want to have like 10. If I go to my detail lining or lining only, you will see better the intensity. So if I go out 6, I can go lining only. So I can just go, if I decrease the intensity to maybe something like 6, that could work. Let's go to the exponential height clock. This one is a very important one. First off, make sure you have the volumetric fog. If we click on this, you will see that automatically everything changes. We have fog that acts as a volume instead of like a flat plane. So we can increase if you decrease the fog intensity, this is what you're gonna get, right? Things that can change the fog intensity a lot is the scattering distribution and the extinction scale. So I don't want to, like everything, you don't want to overdo it. So what I'm going to do is to secondary fog data. And I can change the height of this. Something like that if I wanted. Or the follow, I can decrease the follow. Just go back to this defaults were okay. You can also change the albedo if you want it. And if that doesn't change, the emissive will do the job. Something like this. Like I remember Elden Ring had this kind of greenish stuff here. So just be aware that emissive will actually like multiply all this. So make sure this thing is like not too aggressive. View distance, of course, is how far you can view it, and the start distance you can also change it. Near fade distance, also a bunch of stuff you can do with the exponential height fog. Another one is the atmospheric, the sky atmosphere. This one can change quite a bit. So if we change the height, basically we change the altitude. Okay, we can change this one. If you have like an alien space or something. It's a very technical term. To be honest, I never bothered to learn what that really means. I just like to play with those stuff. And this one looks like a nice. Yeah, this is a nice feature. Just a little bit, just so that it becomes a little bit grayer. Now let's try this one. Now that's very interesting. Very interesting. Let's move this one a bit. Doesn't change much. As you can see, as I increase this, also my intensity for my lights are decreasing. So if you want to change, like for example, the color of the sky, for example, something like this, maybe you want to do that, something bluish like this, or just leave it like white, something. Next thing is the skylight. Of course, the skylight will basically capture your environment and produce indirect lighting. So if I remove this, you will see that without the skylight, everything turns with a harsh shadow. And that's not what I want. So I will just click on this one. And then what you can do is like cloud ambient occlusion if you want it. And that's pretty much it. Like you have the light color, which is basically the environment color. And the intensity, if we go to 0, just be like that. If you go to 5, it's like too bright. So let's go back to 1. That's pretty much it. So the next thing we're gonna touch on, it's the post processing. You can still play with those settings if you like. But let's take a look at some new features now. So let's go to the post processing. It's very simple. Here you can add the post process in the green plus icon. Then you can go to visual effects and then go to post process volume. And you will have a volume here. Now, everything that is inside this volume will be affected by the post process. So, for example, if I go for saturation, or let's use, let's type saturation here, because sometimes post processing can have a lot of options. Let's go back here. You see that nothing has happened, but as soon as my camera gets into this box, everything will start gradually change. So in order to have our post-processing affect the entire world, there is a setting called unbound. It's called infinite extent unbound. As soon as we click this, now if our camera goes in other way, now we can just apply the post process to all our scene. Let's go back to our saturation to something well, like what we had before. So what we can do now is to change these things a little bit. For example, I can change the saturation quite a bit, or I can make it more saturated. Which one you like more? Maybe more saturated is more colorful, or things like that. Maybe that's what you're looking for. In my case, it might be a good idea, so let's just go a bit. In this case, you don't want to, for post-processing, if I can give you some tips, you don't want to go over the top. You don't want to put like something, just put some, you also don't want to go all or over the way. And just put something like this. Okay, let's go for the next setting. So let's go here. Field. Let's change the first things first. First is the temperature. So the temperature can be found in the directional light too. So if I change the temperature here, you will see everything turns warmer or cooler. In my case, I will make it a little bit cooler. So I will just go back like this. As an advice, better to have your lining in place before you do the post-processing, because if your lining is not good, even with the post-process, you won't be able to fix it. So let's just do something like this. Then let's go back to our post-process volume. You can click here. But you can also change the temperature of your scene. And this one changed quite a bit. Sorry for that. It's maybe too much, but just to show you what you can do with this, you can make everything like cooler or warmer. You can also have a tint here. So for example, I can go a little bit greenish if I want it, or a little bit like purple. You don't want to go all the way like this. Just try to play with the values. Very small values give you nice results. So for example, maybe something like this. Contrast. Contrast, if you want to make more realistic scene, reduce the contrast a little bit. If you want to make more stylish, increase the contrast. So in my case, I want to go a little bit realistic, so I will just go for, I just leave it at 1. Gamma, I will show you what it does. Basically, it's the overall whiteness of your scene. Gain, pretty much the same but different. And then you can have the shadows. So for example, you can increase the saturation of the shadows if you want it. I find that if you want to change the midtones, like maybe you want to make the midtones more saturated or less saturated, you can definitely do that. It's all about trying to figure out what works best for your scene. Highlights, maybe you want to saturate the highlights. In this case, it's the grass, so everything will be like saturated. Saturation, that's a big thing actually. Film, it's a big one. So if I go to slope, you will see that everything turns like more contrasty. If I go to toe also, so depending on what you're looking for, you may want to change those things a little bit. This one doesn't change that much. This one does. So it's a lot of flexibility depending on what you want to do. For me, I just want to put it a little bit more, just like this. Global illumination, you don't need to change anything here. By default, you're using lumen. This is what you want. Unless you want to go for something like more render heavy, then you can change those settings to have the shadow quality and this kind of stuff. Ambient cube map. I don't really think we need to change this. We don't really need to change the ambient cube map because you're not using a cube map texture. You could, if you wanted. For example, I have my daylight. And if I do that, my scene will change. Instead of using the skylight, I will use my cube map. So if I go for this or this, there are a lot of cube maps you can get on the internet for free. In my case, I would just want to use the environment colors. Ray tracing, motion blur, I don't really need that. Film grain, that's up to you. If I put it too much, it will be like, a little bit of grain. Like everything, just put a little bit of everything and it will look nice. The next things, I don't think there is any next things because since Unreal Engine 5, the ambient occlusion there doesn't really change that much. It's not much of a big deal here. So I will basically play with the saturation and colors and also the lining. I want to show you something really cool. If you go to the directional light, I will copy my rotation because I really like these values. You go here, you go in the properties, you will see the light source, the light shaft occlusion, the light shaft blue. So it looks like nothing has happened, but actually, when you go here and try to move this, you will see that you have kind of like both rays. Just very nice. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't, but in any case, you have the option to have it. So for example, you have maybe the sun is coming from this window and you have something like this. You can definitely do that. It's very, very cool. Okay, let me go back to my previous values because I really like them. So I think that's pretty much it. Let's do some final touches before we call this ready. So like I promised, we will leave the best to the last. Now we have this asset here, the deer manure. Let's see how big it is. Let's just put it here. No deer will do it there. Look at that. Awful. And I put this as an example that not only as a joke, but as to show you that you can add storytelling at the end when you have everything figured out, your composition, your materials. Then you can add like a fire camp or maybe some animals or whatever. It will just look really nice. I really don't like this, but I promise you we will have it. So here it is. Here it is. So what do you do with this? Well, there are several ways you can go from here. What I will show you is how you can take a screenshot. So before doing that, I'm going to show you how to take a screenshot, and then I'm going to show you how to put a camera. If you go here, you can go to high resolution screenshot, go to the top left in the viewport options, high resolution screenshot, and here you can change what resolution you want. So for example, I will make F11 here, and let me see, like this is, let's just say this is my shot, something like that. Capture, and it will show you a folder where you have your screenshots here, just like this. If I double click on this, you will see that I have my picture here. The resolution, let's see the resolution. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 2K texture. The reason is I'm using a 2K monitor. If your monitor is smaller, you will have less. But of course, you can multiply it by 2 or by 3. And it's just be aware that it will be heavier to render and it may crash. 2 maybe a good choice. So if I do 2, you will see that it takes much longer, technically maybe twice. So now when I double click on this, now when I zoom in, I will have much higher resolution. That's nice if you want to have that. So what if you want to have a nicer screenshot? Well, we will go here and then go to Cinematic and go to Cine Camera Actor. And you will see that I have a window here that has this camera. If I press G, go to the game mode so you can see the camera, and I can just put it in position to where I want to have it. In my case, because I want to use this camera, I go here to Cine Camera Actor. And I can just move it like this. Now you see that my field of view and all this stuff is changed. So depending on what you're looking for, maybe you want to look for something like this. You can see it can change quite a bit. Maybe that's what you're looking for, maybe it's not. You also have some settings, like you have film, you have this one. Like this one could work. Like it looks smaller, right? So if I like this one, I can just go here and do a high resolution screenshot. Let's go back to our camera. And by the way, if you don't want to lose the properties here, I believe there is a button here. Yeah, there is a lock. So if I click on any other actor, I will move this. So what you have here is universal zoom. You can change the settings. So for example, this one, or this one, or this one. Depends on what you're looking for. You can just basically change the settings for whatever it is that you want to do. So let's just go for universal zoom. The next thing is the focus. The focus is quite important. So if I go here, you say this is my screenshot. I will grab the focus plane is like here. So I will just grab this subject. And now what you will see is that everything starts blurry. So what I can do is just change where I want the focus to be on. So if I put it like this, the focus will be here. And I can just put it like that. And yeah, you can change the aperture, the focal length. I think this one is quite interesting. And you can have like different shots of your environment. You don't only need one shot, you can have many. But you know, it's the Cine Camera Actor will give you that cinematic look you're looking for, which normal cameras don't do. So if I want this one, for example, I can just go here. And you see that everything looks flatter. That's because of the settings here, the focal length. I can just go back and just try to find something I like. But in any case, I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you if you're new to Unreal, or maybe you have more experience in Blender or any other 3D software, but want to transition into using this tool. We have covered a lot of stuff. We have covered how to navigate, how to model, how to deform objects, how to work with materials, how to set dress the scene, how to group actors, how to paint foliage, lighting, post-process. It's just all the things you need to do to kickstart your journey in Unreal. Of course, there are a lot of things, extra things such as the materials, complex materials, VFX, programming, procedural stuff. All this kind of stuff can take a while to learn. This is why you can find them on our channel. We have a lot of tutorials for that. You can also go to Quest, our website, unfgames.com/quest, where you can find everything their structure, where you can start from the very beginning, or if you have more experience, you can go for more advanced topics, or if you want to find some blueprint stuff, you can have the categories for that, or level art stuff like this one, you can have the categories for that. With that being said, I hope to see what you can do in the future. I hope to see more of your work and more stuff from you. If you want to learn more from us, please subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think about it. I'm Mal, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.